In this episode, we're meeting up with my buddy T at Alondra Park in Los Angeles. We're going to talk about everything you need to know to start swimbait fishing or to step up your swimbait fishing game. Definitely be sure you hit the subscribe button if you like this kind of content. Let's get into it.
There it is. My buddy Jordan hit me up, say, hey bro, I want to get into swimbait fishing. If you're looking to get into swimbait fishing, I'm going to give you some tips that's overall going to save you some money and put you in the right path. I've seen a lot of people come into the tackle shop and pursue swim baiting. I've also seen them come back and not want a part of it. So this is going to be T of Fishall Brand's breakdown and entry level to swim baits. Look, big baits catch big fish. We all know it, but not everybody knows how to go about it. If you're just starting out, or maybe you haven't had too much luck, this video is really intended for you. Swim bait fishing is just another style of fishing. It's another application or style of fishing to add to your arsenal. You have to look at it like that. But I do advise you guys to start small. If you're just starting out, most ponds have bluegills. Why not get you a Huddleston gill or maybe a unique bait gill? They're both weedless alternatives. They're both easy to throw. You don't necessarily need a dedicated swim bait rod for it. And if you're somewhere where maybe there's a lot of algae or maybe there's too much structure where you're getting snagged, you might want to get like a straight retrieve bait or maybe even a glide bait. So all a glide bait is, when I'm referring to a glide bait, is usually it has a single joint down the middle, and when you're retrieving it, it goes left and right and glides. Some baits have tight glides, meaning they're more of like a solid S. Some have deep glides. This one has a little bit of both depending on the retrieve. It's 86 baits. It's a smaller profile. It can fit some bigger shad that we have in certain lakes, or it can fit the profile of a carp, maybe a juvenile catfish, a lot of oftentimes bluegill. Some people from the conventional side, they're more finesse fishermen. They like to fish low and slow. I'd recommend getting something that's going to be low and slow, like a burrito shad, some type of slow crawling baits. Some people like to burn banks. They like to fish crankbaits and spinner baits and chatter baits. So you probably want to get something that fishes fast, maybe like a straight retrieve weedless bait. Citizen by Working Class Zero is a great one. Triple trout, you can even fish a glide. But when you start getting into all these baits, you have to really take the time to look at your rod and reel setup. Just quickly talk about rod and reel combos. This is iRod 794. It's the Pose Max Stick. It's a very multi-purpose rod. Paired up with a 300 size reel, even a 200 size reel, depending on what type of fishing or what type of baits you're going to be throwing. All the baits I have here, I can throw on this 794. And it's not only a rod that can throw swim baits, but I can throw 3/4 ounce jigs, 1 ounce jigs. I can Carolina rig it. It's a 7'9", so I'm gonna get that distance. It has enough backbone so I can jack that hook in. I can throw 13 10-inch worms on a Texas rig. It's a very multi-purpose functioning rod. They go for about 200 bucks, a lifetime warranty. The reason why I specifically chose to talk about this rod today is because it has upsized slanted K-guides. The upsized slanted K-guides, what does that mean to you? One, there's some of the better guides that you can purchase and put on a rod. The oversized K-guides is going to allow that connection knot to go through the guides. You guys are wondering, what is connection knots? Well, I'm referring to braid. I'm a big believer in braid. If you are trying to be versatile, if you're trying to have a multi-purpose rod, you should really look into getting braid. I'm gonna tell you why. Braid, you can tie a leader and you can fish 12 pound one day, you can fish 25 pound the next day. You can fish straight braid, you can fish monofilament, you can fish fluorocarbon. Every single one of these baits kind of do different things. Monofilament floats, but has higher visibility, but it's the least expensive line of the three. Fluorocarbon sinks has the least visibility, but is the more expensive line. Braid is fairly expensive, but it's gonna last you a long time, and there's no stretch on it. You put that braid on there, you can tie leaders. In the long run, you'll save money because you're not constantly taking spools of line out. You're just using leaders. I use maybe a 8-foot leader, 6-foot leader at most. So if I'm out there fishing, say here in a California pond where we need to fish finesse during the day, I'll probably throw something like this on 15-pound fluoro. But then as the sun goes down and maybe I want to go check out another spot where it probably has bigger grade fish and I'm on a bite, I'll throw something like this, but I don't want to lose it, so I'm tying 25 pounds. Now I'll go to another spot where I'm not supposed to fish, but they're eating a top water, you know, trout imitating bait because they're stocking trout. I might go straight braid or fish 30. I can fish whatever I want on this rod because I have braid. Look into braid. Penn Fathom 300, it's got 25, 26 pounds of drag. The Pose Max 794 Kaimana Coastal, it's a setup. Yeah, Jordan just asked about drag. That's something that every angler is gonna have to develop on their own. I personally, I fish a fully locked drag. Whenever I'm throwing swim baits, I fish a fully locked drag. And the reason is because most of my swim baits, I upgrade the trebles regardless. This Steps 250 has 2X treble hooks. So when I set the hook, I turn and I don't stop turning that handle. It's either I turn the handle and it's just drag, which hopefully that doesn't really happen because this has like 25 pounds of drag, but if it does, chances are you got a big one. But I don't believe in drag. I've lost fish playing fish, and you gotta imagine, if a fish has this bait in their mouth and she's shaking her head, all this counterweight can pull that hook. So I don't want to give her opportunity to shake her head. Now, if you're fishing like a flipping stick, or you're fishing, you know, a lighter action, heavy rod, because you don't have a swim bait rod or you don't have something like this here, then that's okay. Maybe you would have to play them, but it all varies on what type of bait that you're throwing. If you're throwing an exposed jig hook, I don't recommend any drag. It's just this bait's gonna flop in their mouth, and ultimately that hook can just come out and you lose the fish. But if you're fishing treble hook baits, then that's when you can kind of get away with finessing them just a little bit. By finessing them just a little bit, maybe a little jitter or two on the drag, and that's it. I'm a firm believer that in all of fishing, the #1 bait that you can have is confidence. If I go out here with an Ica, I feel like I'll cream everybody on an Ica. That's how much confidence I have on that bait. And it goes with any of my swim baits that I have here. You have to do your homework. You have to develop some type of confidence in these baits. You don't just pick up a swim bait in your head, you think, I'm gonna catch a big fish. It doesn't work that way. In the swim bait scene, you'll find that people are gonna purchase this bait. They don't get bit after a couple of trips. They see somebody catch a 10-pounder on this bait. So then they're gonna go and buy this bait. Next thing you know, they don't catch nothing, so then they buy this bait because they saw somebody catch a couple of fish on it. So they buy all these baits. Before you know it, they'll have 10, 11, 12 baits, and they may have only caught maybe 1 or 2 fish. That is the biggest mistake that you can make in swim bait fishing. This is my biggest tip. Buy one bait. Make sure the bait that you're buying, you did your homework. You correlated that bait with the fishery you're fishing at, the type of season, what type of forage it has, and you buy that one bait. And you set a goal of 5 to 10 fish catches. And you are not allowed to utilize or purchase any other baits until you have met your goal of 5 to 10 fish catches. I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. 1, you're gonna develop confidence in that bait. 2, you're gonna develop confidence in yourself, and then you're also gonna develop the mentality, the discipline needed to be successful at throwing these big baits. Because ultimately, when you're starting out, you don't have any confidence, nor do you have any knowledge, and all of a sudden you met your goal, you probably broke your PB a couple of times, and the biggest one to me is you'll save money. You buy 10, 12 swim baits, you just spent $600, $700, and you haven't even been successful. At the end of the day, it's about saving money, developing confidence, understanding the mindset. Now, it's not to say that a Senko or an Ica or a chatterbait can't catch a big fish, but when you get into swim bait fishing, you have to understand that you are sacrificing bites for the right bite. Understanding that logic. If you're saying you want to be the guy that just throws his bait, commit to it, be that guy. But don't spend thousands of dollars on baits, because you'll never be that guy. Just because you throw a big bait doesn't mean that you're going to catch a big fish. Set a goal, 5 to 10 fish catches. And when you do meet that goal, and you broke your PB, and you develop confidence, not only in yourself, but you develop confidence spots, you'll be adding to your arsenal. And what that means is simple. If you start with the HUD 68, baller on a budget, so you get you a junior swim iRod, lifetime warranty. Maybe you go on eBay, you buy you a 200 or 300 size Cardiff for $100. You load it up with 15, 20 pound mono. You start off with this HUD 68. You caught 10 fish on it. Are you gonna buy a burrito shad? Chances are you're not, because this bait kind of does what this bait does. You'll be adding to your arsenal. So you'll probably get a glide bait. You'll probably get a triple trout. You'll be getting something that this bait can't do. And then you set your goal for this one, 5 to 10 fish catches. Then you'll have met your goal. And then you say, you know what? I want top water. I want a rat. I want some type of wake bait. I want some type of big, big walking style bait. Add to your arsenal effectively. Save you some money. Develop some confidence. Don't overspend. Don't be intimidated about swim bait fishing. There's nothing to be intimidated about. If you lose a bait, so what? If you start off small and you lose a bait, so what? The worst thing you can do is start off right off the back expensive. Then you start losing baits. And now that's in the back of your head. You know, they always said if you get your heart broken too hard in high school, it's gonna follow you for the rest of your life and you're gonna be miserable and scared to get your heart broken. It's the same thing with swim baits, dude. If you go out on your first outing and you snap off a $200 bait, oh dude, you can be hurt for the rest of your life. So start off with a $20 bait. And if it's for you and you realize like this is something I wanna do, then do it. This swim bait thing, the swim bait game is all discipline. If you're disciplined enough to keep casting and winding, eventually you're gonna stumble across one that's hungry. But every time you make a cast and you don't get bit, learn something about that cast. I really emphasize on the 68 because this bait right here is gonna teach you a lot about the bodies of water you're fishing. Is it chunk rock out there? Is it grass? Is it algae? Is it this? Is it that? In every cast, you'll find some spots within a pond. Hope some of these tips help you out. You guys should look into iRod. iRod specifically makes rods for swim baiters. The 794 Pose Max Stick is the Kaimana Coastal iRod 794. Then you have the Gen 3 iRod Junior Swim. That rod's rated 1 to 4 ounces, paired up with a 2-300 size reel. And all these baits that we just talked about right here in front of me, to exclude the bigger baits, that rod can throw exceptionally well. But it does have smaller guides, so if you're trying to fish straight mono or straight floral, that rod's for you. If you like the idea of throwing braid, I highly recommend that Pose Max Stick. That's going to be the one for you. Now, if you're completely novice and you don't want to spend the extra money on braid, start with monofilament. I've always encouraged people to start off with monofilament. I'll tell you why. Monofilament is forgiving. So if you make that cast and you backlash, that monofilament has stretch. That stretch is going to allow you to allow enough forgive actually to not snap off that bait. But if you make a cast and you have a gnarly backlash and you're throwing like a 2-3 ounce bait, chances are with straight braid to a leader, one of those knots is going to give. You're going to lose your bait. You're going to have your heart broken. So I don't know about you, Jordan, but appreciate talking to you, bro. You can go ahead and clean up my mess, dog. I'm going fishing.
Thank you guys for watching this episode. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you found some tips in here to step up your swim bait game or to start your swim bait game. I look forward to throwing more swim baits in 2021. And let me know down in the comments how your swim bait fishing is going, if it's going at all, and what you plan to throw this year to catch that new PB. Don't stop here. There's some boxes coming up on the screen. Be sure you hit any one of those, and I'll see you guys in the next video.